So today, I would like to share with you some of our experiences as an MSSP and how we help some of our clients and local organizations to transform their security to deliver faster outcome. Siguro, let's start with the usual, who am I? I'm Edmund Milanes, the head of Nexus Orion Managed Security. So our business is regarding managed security, and I am leading both the business side and technical side of our business unit. In terms of work experience, as a cybersecurity professional, I am more focused with Security Operations Center, DFIR, security architecture and engineering, and of course, business development. So I'm half business and I'm half technical, to be honest. And aside of me before, I have worked with an end user, and I've also tried working for a service provider. And in fact, I have helped two local MSS to put up their managed security services and pioneered their business. Additional information about me: I'm an advocate of managed security service for nearly a decade by now. And over the past few years, I have earned several certifications such as CISM, CISSP, 4GX certifications, and I've also joined and won several capture the flags on the defensive side over the past few years. Siguro, with this, before I jump on to my topic, I would like to show you some game. Siguro a small game for all of us, no? It's like something that we can call capture the flag super easy mode, no? So what I will be showing you here is actually a code, no? A flag. All you need to do is actually to decrypt it and show us the answer. The first one to get it wins it, and probably you can show it with my colleague here, Zar. Can you raise your hand? So you can show your code there. You will know it's right if what you have decrypted is something that is readable, okay? So if you're having hard time to copy yung nasa taas, you have QR code there. And of course, the prize is here, no? So who knows what's this? Anyone? Malamang nakita nyo na to sa labas kasi RootCon also posted this one. Okay? So from the image there, it's actually a rubber ducky, no? It's a rubber ducky. Actually, pinulot ko to sa labas eh. Ne, biro lang. It's actually brand new, so don't worry. You can put it safely on your device, no? If it happens that you win the capture the flag. All right? So in case that you know the flag and you come up with something readable, just reach Zar. Or after my presentation, you can reach the booth of Nexus Orion there. No, so it's just near. All right? So before I move on to the next topic, during the stint of our career as a cybersecurity professional, not just me, but together with my group, dealing with probably hundreds of organizations here locally, one of the things that we have found out is the typical challenges that our usual organizations face when they're trying to come up with their security capabilities. So more or less, probably 90% of us here are cybersecurity professionals. That's why we're here, no? And we know for a fact that cybersecurity has some challenges, especially when we're trying to build our teams, right? So we are all very familiar with the first one, talent pool gap. Globally, survey says that there is a massive deficit in terms of the capabilities and availability of the talent pools generally, no? But by how much, it's still debatable depending on the researchers that we've been following. The next one is steep learning curve, no? We know for a fact that security is a little bit harder to learn compared to a typical network, systems, and so on, because normally it requires us to understand both the network, the systems, and the applications that we are protecting. Particularly on the areas of the FIR, and offensive security, there is quite a huge or a steep learning curve on that area. The third one is time to value. So, siguro for on, hindi masyado on the business side, it's something that you don't usually hear, but in essence, when we're talking to C-levels, time to value pertains to our ability to maximize our existing investments. So the analogy here is that when we are trying to leverage the security platforms that we have purchased for millions, without someone properly operating it, managing it, it will end up as a waste, no? Day by day, the value will totally depreciate. And at the end of the day, probably after 2 years or 3 years, and the license has expired, we may not have been able to maximize its function over us. And last is cost of acquiring security. No? For us, in the business side, security or the expense of our security team are always treated as a cost center. No? So, sa madaling salita, in business, gastos lang yan. No? So, siguro it's very familiar sa inyo how difficult it is to have our security trainings approved. Diba? In the same way, for your managers or your bosses, it's also very hard for us to have our security platforms approved. And even siguro, some of us here, even just attending here in the RootCon maybe are running with several approvals bago tayo makapunta dito, no? So at the end of the day, some businesses may not appreciate it, but of course, little by little, with proper awareness, others also starting to appreciate it. Okay? With this, these four are usually the common pain points that local companies here in the Philippines are struggling with when they're trying to build their security teams and capabilities. But of course, there are more. Having worked with probably more than 100 of local organizations over the past 7 or 8 years, the typical ways that they try to address these gaps are pretty much has a pattern, no? The most common one is the traditional that we build it our own selves, right? When we say build our own self, usually we hire our security teams. We build our expertise and train over maybe a year or so, and then we operate it. The good thing about this method is that it is usually more tailored fit to our organization. But the downside is it takes too much time. So, mas matagal kasi we need learning period, we need trainings and so on before we can properly utilize. Next, there is another option. While less popular generally, this option is actually attractive to larger organizations even 20 years ago, no? Managed services is not only popular on security, but even before it has been very popular with network systems and general IT. And in the same way, over the past few years, managed service has entered the security space as well, particularly to address the limited talent gap. Okay? With managed services, the idea is you acquire the platform, the services, built already, and it's faster to execute, usually few months or so rather than years. But the downside on this one is that, of course, it is less tailored fit compared to other options. But at the end of the day, it's faster, right? So that's the pros and cons. And then lately, C-levels or IT security heads are trying to come up with a more creative option we call hybrid approach, wherein they usually get their managed security services as an interim solution over usually 2 years to 3 years period, and then try to build their own capabilities over that period in such a way that after 2 to 3 years, they can move out or probably lessen their dependence on the managed security service providers and they can stand on their own as a security team. And based on our observation here on the local setup and the researchers as well globally, here in the Philippines, mid and large sizes of companies are starting to move with managed security services for the past 5 years. And then, according to a survey of Vision Gain, there's a 12% year-on-year increase as well on the managed security services adoption globally across all verticals, regardless of their business, either financials, education, healthcare, and so on. But the biggest increase are usually on the education, healthcare, and financials. And there is also a 40% increase on the year-on-year interest of our executive buyers. Ibig sabihin, the decision makers that we have are starting to become more and more aware of how managed security services can help them build their security teams. Okay? And for those organizations who already started to move with managed security services, they already found a good balance on how their MSS partners and their local teams can work together properly. And at the end of the day, it's a synergy between them, learning between each other. Okay? Depending on the size of the company here, they have typical setup that they are following. But our observation here in the Philippines is something like this. So on the context of Philippines, let's say large companies, 2,000 plus and up employees. But of course, in the US, that may still be small or just a mid-size, no? But for the sake of discussion, for large-size companies here in the Philippines, the typical setup they do is that they acquire a managed security operations center, usually using a SIEM stack solution or security analytics or similar. They also acquire an MDR type of services based on the EDR capabilities to provide them live response capabilities. And it is also common for large organizations to have managed security controls on other areas such as firewall, email security, vulnerability management, and so on. On the other hand, on the mid-sized companies, the setup is a little bit different. For mid-sized companies, they usually acquire an MSOC, similarly using a SIEM-like solution or a security analytics type of platform, and then MDR using EDR stack or NDR stack or something similar. But majority of other controls such as firewalls, spam, vulnerability management, WAF, are usually being managed locally by their security team. And interestingly, even those smaller companies of less than 500 have already started adopting managed security services over the past 3 years based on our observation. In fact, we have several clients who fall on this segment, and they're actually trying to integrate managed security services process on their setup. And the usual buying setup or their strategy is either they acquire an MSOC, again using SIEM, or MDR using an EDR solution, either of the two. But usually they are still more leaning towards the SIEM area, primarily to meet some of their requirements for log management as well, or log retention. Okay? But at the end of the day, the main key here is the synergy between the local teams working with the MSS. The local teams also learn and gain an ability to focus with their strategic direction, such as projects, road mapping, and high-level critical incidents, or and so on, and less on the mundane operational tasks, giving them more time to relax and learn about their environment. So that's the setup that they're following. So with all of those things, so there are several driving factors that are pushing managed security or organizations to adopt managed security services. And these are the top 3. The first one is their ability to execute faster. Usually with an MSS setup, you have the ability to reduce your risk quickly rather than taking a long time to minimize your exposure. Okay. Some larger organizations usually tend to focus on their core business, while some other mid-size would find an interim setup wherein they acquire an MSS, as mentioned earlier, as a temporary solution while they still build their capabilities. The second one is maximize their investment. So rather than letting their security platforms not being managed, so they acquire a managed security services provider in order to leverage the skill sets of those providers to operate their systems. No? And then they just guide them on what is the objective of the company and align it with it. Okay? And lastly, the most important with them is more manageable costs. This benefit is much more simpler because when you build your own, when you put up your own 24/7 operations, you usually pay for all of those things, right? But with an MSS setup or your MDR provider, you get those costs at only a fraction because you leverage on a shared services model and get a benefit of what we call economy of scale. So at the end of the day, managed security services are starting to provide value to those organizations, and the key to them is actually for most organizations is the cost and the reduction of risk at a very quick time. Okay. Nexus Orion, as a managed security service provider, has been here for several years, and we wanted to share some of our journey. So we were founded mid-2019 at a very small room with just less than 10 people. But after 4 years, so we increased on 8-fold, so nearly 70 in count. Okay? So, and it's all thanks to our partners and clients who trust us. And as an MSS provider, so we provide MDR type of services, managed security controls, and cybersecurity services as well to help our client with anything that they need in order to help their local security team. Nexus Orion prides itself with high-quality service delivery, and in fact, as of the moment, Nexus Orion has acquired or has been serving more than 50 organizations as of the moment with 100% client retention rate and renewal rate over the past 2 years and 98% since inception. A true testament of how our clients and our partners trust our services. And we also got some commendations from our clients from the infrastructure sector, insurance, group of hospitals, and financial sectors as well, which essentially translates that they love our services. And lastly, before I go, thank you very much for having me here. I would like to invite everyone to drop our booth to play our mini cybersecurity games. So it's running daily, 1:30 to 4:30 to get a chance to win some prizes such as jackets, umbrella, tote bag, and even get a chance to win a Security exam voucher from CompTIA. Okay? You can also win a jacket from just posting a picture with us. Okay? And doon sa mga hindi pa nakakasagot, if you're interested with the rubber ducky, so again, last chance. So here's the QR code so you can try to win this. Okay? So thank you very much for having me here.